This is an audio taped version of the slides that I shared with you when you visited with me in Include. So we keep our conversation going. This was my outline, and when I spoke with you at Include, I covered the first bullet and a part of one of the examples. So I will walk you through the rest of the first example, then the second example, and then I will leave you with a couple of key concepts, and maybe if you have questions, I will be able to answer them after you listened to this version. If you want to send me email, we can converse that way. We did talk about our group being an interdisciplinary group working in several different areas. I did also cover the timeline, and I did explain to you how our organization started and the way we learned over time, and why, therefore, a key concept for us in our work is transformative practices for knowledge generation, which you may be able to deepen about or on using this link and reading this paper, which was published both in Spanish and English. I also did talk with you about the way in which we interacted very locally in our neighborhood, at our city, at a national level, and also internationally. And I didn't have the time to explain quite in detail the concept of geographical and ideological neighbors that you will be able to find in these two citations, although these are written in Spanish. By geographical and ideological neighbors, we mean that sometimes we are not close geographically to the people we work with, but ideologically we seem to share the same vision and direction to our work. And in those pieces that I'm citing here, we analyzed the work we did with Isaura Arancibia School, but also with other cooperative social groups and social movements. So for people who can read in Spanish, maybe those are pieces that could be of your interest in terms of detailed information. I then spoke about the way in which I could conceptualize third spaces for learning in the lens of Include, or say it the other way around, how Include could be conceptualized as a third space for learning. And for doing that, I used the figure that you will find on page 21st for the book, in the book. And I did walk you through while I spoke when you were at Include about these characteristics. And I want to then walk you through the first example that I did start to speak about when we shared our time a couple of days ago. And for this example, I'd like to start by saying that this is work we did with a parent-teacher association at a neighbor school 2 blocks away from Include. And when I started to participate in that school as a parent, I found out that the PTA was a small and hierarchical group making decisions in closed doors. So it was hacia adentro, meaning for the inside of the building and the organization, and meaning it was also not at the view of everybody. So in these bullets, what you find is a sort of difference that I was able to analyze over time in the work that we were able to do, linking the work of the PTA with Asociación Civil Incluid and with a research program and project we had started in 2008, whereby we're documenting spaces, places, and times where groups self-govern themselves and how they learn to do that. And so in that capacity, I put to work my professional interest open to the people who were at the PTA with the needs of the PTA, and I also participated as a mom. So I did have several different roles at the same place and time. But I need to say that I did this work over time for 10 years. So this was a long-term kind of work. There are some pieces written on this experience in German and Spanish. And unfortunately, I don't think we've written anything in English. But if you're especially interested in this aspect of the PTA, you could ask me, and I'm sure we'll find a way to translate whatever you need to understand better. One specific feature of this group was what I did have time to explain, that this woman whom you see on the photograph had an issue with the former PTA not providing receipts for the donations people make for the PTA. So for that reason, we started to collaborate as moms to think about how to make visible that money did get into the PTA and where did it go. You see that she's writing at the top of a box. That box was the box to put the donation, and what she's writing is the receipts. So she was the one in charge of making things clear and better for the PTA. And she's also the artist who crafted the sign you see behind where it says La Mesita. That's a collage that she created, and she worked voluntarily with families and the kids to create several pieces of art throughout the PTA's work. So that place was called La Mesita, the small table at the door of the school, and here you see pictures over time. After we started, we tried out several different ways of doing things, and something that did call people's attention at the PTA and the families of the school were three aspects that the La Mesita developed over time. One was food made at home that people brought and shared. The other one was toys and books shared by kids. Each family would bring toys and books, and whomever wanted, they could take them home and bring them back and exchange. And the third aspect that was important was information that was portrayed on the walls of the school that you can see on the third picture to the right, whereby we were explaining to people how the government was not taking good care of the schools. These are state schools supported by tax money. So we made clear and we made sure that people knew that there was not enough care from the government to our schools. You see here on this picture part of the artwork that I mentioned before, and the food, and also the way in which we put signs on the wall for people to draw. And here is also the event that brought together several different mesitas or small tables at different public schools in the city of Buenos Aires on July 7th, 2016. And so what I was also explaining to you when we met was that in order to make things visible, we used visuals. Each time we made the notes available to everybody, so things got written on the wall or on the board, and people could take a picture and keep it with them, so to follow through what had been decided. Here's another example. This is planning for the year. And as you can see, there were many events that were being planned. And here's also another sign that we put together to explain to the families how the PTA works, which is an assembly mode, meaning that even there is a board that you will see at the center of this sign where it says Comisión Directiva, and there are roles to that board, such as president or vice president or secretaries or treasurer. There are also other roles that were taken up voluntarily by people who, even though they did not belong strictly to the board, they belonged to the PTA and volunteered their time to do very many different activities, such as mailing, the blog, the signs, contests, art contests and art events, celebrations, and also getting together voluntarily to take care of the school, of the building specifically. Here's another picture that is showing the same, but this is the planning for the whole year that needs to be submitted to the state, and here it is summarized. And here's a picture that shows how the board met and how people sat in a circle so we were able to see each other and work together. So the second example comes out of the work of this PTA because, as I explained to you, since we were so active and people started to participate so closely to the PTA, almost every day we had people coming to the school and bringing either donations or ideas they wanted to share or conversations they wanted to get started with the PTA, that we thought that we needed more space, because also the principal at the school was telling us that she couldn't ask for the school to be open every weekend. So we found out that around our neighborhood there were very many places where people were happy to donate their space for free to conduct activities that were free of charge, although people donated time, monies, and resources at those activities. So that also became a space and a time where funds were raised. So it was a fundraising activity in a way as well, but that wasn't the purpose. The main purpose was to participate in art and play-related activities that entailed music, visual arts, and drama or theater, and play. And from this experience also became possible to construct those small libraries that you saw at the door of Incluir that we call Bibliotecas al Paso. There are several of those on the streets of Colegiales around this neighborhood. So this was our logo: haciendo y pensando juntos inventamos cosas mejores. Doing and thinking together, we can create better things. And around the circle, you can see all the different activities that we were able to put together over time. This, the example that I will show now is over 2 years. And what happened over 2 years was we started at the PTA, which is the red circle, Cooperadora, Escuela Marcos Sastre, and Asociación Civil Incluir, as you can see, is 2 blocks away. And a few months after we started relating to each other and using the space of Incluir for some activities, I was the one in charge of convincing other people in the neighborhood that it was good for them to donate their space when it was not at use. So you can see all the different spaces that agreed to share their space. Several spaces are related to music, such as Profesionales de Otra Cosa, art as Galería Perotti, a food place like El Cocilón del Club, a restaurant that opened up only for the PTA's activities to, for example, show a movie and then share something to eat or share music, a yoga school. So it was an interdisciplinary effort to be able to create cultural and art spaces for the neighborhood for free, all managed by the PTA. Over time, what happened is that we extended to the neighborhood of Belgrano, which is where Cooperadora Liceo 9 Santiago Derqui is located, and actually that's the high school I went to, which is interesting to me as well. I was not living at this neighborhood at that point in time. I was living in a different neighborhood, but I did attend that open public school, Santiago Lerqui. And they did take notice that we were doing all these activities in our neighborhood in Colegiales, and they wanted to start interacting with us. So on this slide, what you see as red dots are 3 different PTAs that networked, and we did so to put out all these activities that I was telling you about, but also to reclaim our voice in terms of being an important political actor in providing good quality public education for everybody in our neighborhoods. So that was also part of what got into the work of this initiative, because people were starting to realize that having access to art and music and educational activities was indeed part of their educational desire and right. And the PTA was being able to provide for that right. So in that sense, a lot of political discussion took place, maybe not under the category of political discussion, however. And so these are the different dots of different people who decided to participate over time. And here's a picture of a band that was formed at the school Marcos Sastre. That was a band that got together by talking at the mesita. So the first example that I provided to you, where you saw the mesita on the street, was the place and time where ideas like these started to get shared. And you see David there playing the saxophone, because during the mesitas we also had music live at 7:45 in the morning. Some neighbors complained at first, but then they did like it. And after people saw David playing the saxophone, they started saying, well, I can play the guitar, I can play the bass, I sing. And this band got started at La Mesita. But then it became part of the Circuito Cultural Marcos. You took a leaflet, a booklet, small piece with you where all this is explained as well. Here's the picture of La Biblioteca El Paso that is in the Taller de Alma, which is an art place, maybe 6 blocks away from Incluir. This is the day we inaugurated that library. Here is the Santiago Lerqui High School patio. Here is the indoors of the school, where we also put together an arts festival. And you may be able to realize in this picture by my explanation now that there's classrooms that are open, and within those classrooms there were activities such as a book club, visual arts, literary activities, and at certain points in the afternoon the band played a couple of songs, and then we started again the cycle of activities. And here's a bigger activity that took place on the streets to celebrate the anniversary of the foundation of the neighborhood of Colegiales. And all the different participants that you saw on the maps that I was sharing with you a couple of slides ago participated to do this activity, which was very, very big. Here's the same activity in a different place, because we kept on moving the corner where we conducted this type of on-the-street activity. And here's a picture that shows very many of the members of the PTA, including the kids, that also did a lot of work to put these activities together. And here's big sign we painted all together, and an activity that we put together at this plaza, at this park, that says, la educación pública es un derecho y no un negocio, no se negocia. Meaning public education is a right. It's not a business, and we will not negotiate our right to a free quality education for all. So I guess what I'm trying to explain to you is that over time, the work of a PTA that was able to conceptualize their doing both as artistic, cultural, recreational, educational, and political was able to not only provide for these interesting activities, but also for dialogue, to exchange views and participate also in creating an agenda for our rights to be met. As a PTA, we had very many accomplishments in the area of the dialogue with governmental structures, which maybe is not the time now to detail, but it's interesting and important that you know that that also did happen. And at our monthly meetings at the PTA board and the assemblies, this was also discussed under the theme or the thematic area of educación pública como un derecho. So again, here are some pictures of the kinds of activities we put together. As you can see, a lot of people participating. And here's also a couple of pictures of activities that the bands took with them to other cities, to Rosario and San Pedro. So the work of the PTA extended to other places that are quite far away. Rosario is 300 kilometers from Buenos Aires, and San Pedro is 150 kilometers away from Buenos Aires. So in finalizing, I'd like to discuss two concepts. One is that learning how to self-govern groups that decide to undertake the path of autogestión, self-management, but in the sense of direct democracy, occurs in the moving and in the doing. So it is the concept of experience that maybe is the concept that will allow us to make a connection with moving, doing, and learning. And in that sense, we need to also acknowledge that we face contradiction and tension. But precisely because we are learning in the moving and in the doing, we create in those kinds of spaces ways to acknowledge these contradictions and tension and work on them, with them, and about them. That may be a separate chapter of the work of the PTA, how this was conducted, and this was done by several different techniques that not only Asociación Incluir and our team brought to the school, but very many other parents and families also brought their ways of doing things in this respect. So that's very interesting for you to know and for me to acknowledge. And also, it's crucial to note that the role of arts and play in these long-term processes is key, is crucial. I don't think we could have participated so profoundly and deeply as we did as a PTA in political matters had not play and arts be there for us to be together with families amongst us and share time and create spaces where people felt they wanted to come and participate. And it wasn't as if we were telling you you were doing arts and then we were doing the political activity, but it was the fact that you got together to organize something, and you had to ask yourselves questions such as, who's the organizer? Who's networking with us? What resources do we have at hand? What resources do we need to get? Do we need permission from the government to do the activities on the street? Do we need permission from the principal to put a mesita, small table, at the door of our school? Those are political questions, even though we sometimes may not realize that at that point. So with this, I leave you with these ideas, and in the hopes that if there's anything you'd like to deepen on or share with me or ask me, you will do it. Muchas gracias.